Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of UGA Sports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I am joined by Jim Donnan and Dayne Young. Jim Donnan is the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach. And the reason everybody stopped tuning in at noon when Kirby was speaking and are tuning in now at 7 when Coach Donnan is speaking. So we're going to get Coach Donnan's thoughts about the second scrimmage and where Georgia is going into 2 weeks out. We're less than 2 weeks away from Georgia football, folks. To me, it seemed like a very fast offseason, but then other offseasons seem like they take 10 years. So I'm just glad we're back to Georgia football. And of course, Dayne Young has some cut-up clips from Kirby. He's our executive producer. He teaches at UGA, and we're going to get his thoughts as well. Coach,
it felt like it was a fast offseason because you spent half of it in the Middle East.
Well, hey, somebody's got to do these recruiting trips all over the country, all over the world, and check things out. Coach, less than 2 weeks away, and I asked Kirby right off the bat, I'm like, what does week 3 or week 4 of camp look like? Because you've had your second scrimmage. You've had your and then they're not going to do another scrimmage. I think they'll just do a walkthrough next week or next Saturday or something, but they're not going to take a chance on getting hurt again. Are they already working on Marshall and Austin Peay and Tennessee and Alabama? And Kirby said, we're working on us, but what do you do after I guess you've had 2 scrimmages and you can assess what your team looks like. What do you do as a head coach before you start game prep, but after you're done? I don't want to say installing, but just kind of assessing what your talent is. What are they doing this week?
One of the first things you do for fall camp is try to evaluate personnel. That's the big deal, because there's some new guys coming in, and there's also you hope that some of them improved from last year, and your whole squad has got certain things that you need to implement. So you install your offense, defense, special teams, and then evaluate personnel. I always felt like, the game week, everybody's going to be jacked to the max. They're going to be ready to rock. You don't have to do a whole lot of motivating. But this is kind of the doldrums, so to speak, because you finished you finished practice, you started back to school, and it's hard to think about 2 weeks from now and get through this week, but you got to fight through it. So what I always try to do, and I think Kirby has kind of monitored that over the years and worked kind of similar to us, is you're not just opening up with Marshall and Austin Peay. You've got a big game with Tennessee, then Alabama, Kentucky. So I've always felt like if you can install a little bit preliminarily about what the teams that you're playing early and get in the kid's mind where they can remember it a little bit, then the day you start on them, like let's say, for instance, the first day of Alabama prep, you will have known a little bit about their schemes. And certainly these kids know a lot about Alabama. They played them, but you had a whole practice designated to that. So I would think this week they'll spend a little bit on Alabama, a little bit on Tennessee, and maybe a couple others. But the number one thing you want to do this week, and people on the show have heard me say forever, and we've chronicled it on this show so many times about what happened last year. You know what won for you last year, and you know what got you beat. And the players, for the most part, understand that. But you've got it on tape, you've got clips, you've got all these different ways. But you want to educate the players, if only and next time. Change those words. So over the years, you say, well, if only we'd have done this. So you're going to talk to, this is the next time. And when you're presented the same challenge and the same kind of ingredients to try to overcome something or make a move during the game, I'm going to be ready to do this because I've learned from my mistakes or I've learned from my success. So we're going to really work hard on the things that got us beat last year, and also reinforce some of the real things that Kirby strives for, special teams, situations, all that. But this is a situation week where you just hone in on a lot of walkthroughs, a lot of tape, and put it in their memory bank, because, you watch a game on pros, college, anything, and you say, why did that guy do that? And you just never know how somebody's going to react. But with the advent of all the people like Dayne and you that have all these tapes and everything, they've got gobs of situational things that have happened not only to our team, but other teams in the country. So, for instance, let's say you're running a play on the goal line where everybody knows that people like to pick. You know, a receiver goes out and another guy goes and turns his body and causes some kind of collision, and then the guy gets open. Well, that's a play that's really well, for the most part, looked at by the officials, and they're going to call it unless it's a clean look, you know. So what you might do is talk to your defense and your offense. This is a situation that can make the difference in the game. Go back to the Clemson-Alabama national championship game when Clemson threw the ball in the flat and the kid caught the touchdown pass. You know, Alabama didn't play it very well. But here's the point for us. We're going to see that over and over. Expect that on the goal line, and let's see how we react to it. Let's say, like the punt we had when Thorson got hurt last year, out of our end zone, and they called us for delay a game. And it wasn't delay a game, but they called it. And the snap was maybe right at the last second. The deep snapper's got to look at the clock and know that. All these are things that you're going to harp on and have a checklist all week and add a few in the special teams, defense, offense. And I'm not going to belabor the point, but it doesn't make any difference how good the other team is or how bad the other team is. You got to be the Socrates this week. Know thyself. What can we do? This is a Socrates week, if only next time.
Well, it's funny because when I asked Kirby, I'm like, what does your week look like this week? He says, we have to work on ourselves. So you're obviously his mentor because he's saying the exact same thing. And he said,
that's not right. He didn't do that because I've helped him some, but, you know, it doesn't do me good. Seriously, though, it doesn't do me any good to go through all this stuff in front of everybody, and then you say Kirby said it, trying to milk me up.
No, I'm just saying he said something similar. I'm trying to give you credit. You know, he said something similar, and I asked him about penalties.
I hear Kirby said to me, but the big point, and I'm not going to interrupt you, but the biggest point to me as a football coach, you've got to articulate to 200 and some people in that building, equipment men, whoever it might be, trainers, everybody. We've worked hard to get to this point. Now, what are we going to do with it? You know, our preparation has been good, but everybody else has worked hard too, all these other schools. So this is your role. This is what I want you to do, and how you're going to contribute to our team. Every team doesn't have an all-star player at every position, you know, but I heard a quote from a guy that was a coach around the country last week, and he was saying, you look at the teams that are winning on a consistent, nationally ranked level, and look at the pro draft, and the ones that are getting 10, 12, 14, 16 guys drafted, those are the teams that are winning. And then the complementary people on the team are playing their role. So we're having that kind of success here with our draft. We're going to continue to do it, but it's become a deal where you better have some big-time players out there because you're not going to out-coach people. I mean, you can coach your butt off, but you got to have players.
Well, all right, Coach, let me ask you a targeted question here, though. 10 days before first game, did you know who your starters were at every position, or in those last 10 days, was that still being decided?
Well, for the most part, it should be. You want to keep it open. The one thing I always felt like, and I felt like it was true in my case, one of the worst things you can do is take an older player and move somebody ahead of him without giving him a chance to win that job, because he's put some time into your program and been loyal to you. So you're going to go that extra mile for an older guy, but it becomes pretty obvious that he can't cut it. You're going to have to move him out. So, but, you know, you have a pretty good idea, and particularly after as many plays they've run in scrimmage. So you know pretty well what you're going to do. But I've always felt like if you're alternating two guys, you got two second-team players. To me, a guy's first team, and now in today's football, with all these big guys, they do run a lot of DBs. I mean, D linemen in and receivers and all that. But I just feel like when you're in the game and you get in the flow, down after down, you play better than when you kind of look at the sideline. Are you going to take me out? I mean, that's the way I liked it. I don't like the sub a whole lot.
Well, that's kind of what when I mentioned Kirby talking about focusing on his team. When I asked him about it, he said we're going to do what we did. We're going to look at ourselves, and this week we're fixing this and fixing that. And I'm like, okay, well, what did you see in the scrimmage? And Jordan asked him before I got a chance to ask him what he saw in the scrimmage, and that's kind of what I wanted to know is, and Kirby's not going to tell us. And we even asked him about the starting quarterback today, and he's like, I'm not going to tell you who my starting quarterback is. We know who the starting quarterback is, but he's like, I'm not going to tell you that so you can write it, which I get it. It's fair. It's fine. I'm not begrudging that. But, when we asked him all these questions, he keeps it very vague. And he was asked about what he thought of Georgia's second scrimmage. And let's roll that tape to hear what he said.
The purpose was to get game-like situations, tackle live. We achieved those purposes, and we came out pretty unscathed injury-wise, which is big when you tackle. So we still got a ways to go. Didn't have as much success defensively in the second scrimmage as we did in the first, but we had bright spots individually, probably on both sides of the ball.
That was pretty quiet, but I mean, he mentioned some of the things that they had going through the camp. I mean, through the scrimmage. Also, Kirby talked about how he was happy that it was hot. Unlike last week, when it was 70 degrees, he said they had to struggle through it. Coach, this past week has been hot as hell, and he said it affected this team. He said they weren't expecting to see very high GPS numbers. Guys running really quickly, especially because they went pretty hard Thursday and Friday. Saturday, though, he kind of said the offense, I don't say got the better of the defense, but he said that the defense didn't look as good as they did last week. But, of course, it was 70 degrees last week versus 90-something and humid this past weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a situation. I mean, I told you off air that one year out at Missouri, we had unseasonably cool weather all during fall camp, and then we played Army. It's like 90-some degrees. But I think the big thing conditioning-wise, though, is the year-round training we're doing now and the fact the kids here all summer working together and working out. Conditioning, it's a little different once you put the pads on as compared to just running out there, in shorts and shoes and just shirts, but because you got to take into effect the extra weight of the pads and everything. But they do such a great job of monitoring stress on the players about how much they're really actual running. I mean, you've got like an odometer on each guy with these GPS systems. How many steps they take the whole time they're in practice, and they really want to be at their optimum, and they're going to build up to that. That's why they're conditioning between now and next Saturday. Normally in a game week, Thursday and Friday, you wouldn't practice like we did before the scrimmage, like you were saying. They went at it pretty hard Thursday and Friday because they weren't worried about playing an opponent. So you're probably not going to get as much kids be quite as rested going into it. But we've got an unbelievable strategy for getting our guys ready. We've talked about it for fans that listen to our show. Thursday after practice, they have those people come over there and massage the special the specialists, and work on their legs, and they do. They really want them fresh, and what a success rate they've had. I mean, it's like so many people watch this show. You're authority on your job. I mean, Kirby's got these people looking at all the different ways that what they're eating, how much they're sleeping. They got sleep monitors on them. I mean, we do everything.
Now, one of the questions I thought was very interesting was from Seth. He was talking about the middle eight of the games. And, he asked him about the middle eight and, mentioned the Notre Dame game. And in the middle of that sentence, Kirby goes, nightmare, talking about the middle eight. And you've talked about it a little bit, but Kirby also mentioned that, there's the explosive plays. And he mentioned 3 or 4 other categories that determine the outcome of a game. And then he said, look, if you look at these, if you graph these, the middle eight, who had the most explosive plays, who had the biggest runs, who had the most havoc plays in the backfield, these all mimic who won or lost the game. So you could look at the middle eight, you could look at havoc plays, you could look at the explosive plays, turnovers. These all indicate who won the game. And I just thought it was a very interesting take on the middle eight. And it's one of the things that the film they're looking at. Let's go ahead and play what Kirby Smart said about the middle eight.
You're trying to double possession people. It's why a lot of people defer in the first half to get a double possession. It's a lot of strategy in it. There's a lot more people going forward on fourth down, closer to half to keep somebody from getting an extra possession. But we look at it, we study it, we try to attack it the right way. We historically have been really good at that, and probably the worst we've ever been at it was the Notre Dame. We've never been outscored that much in that period without touching the ball.
I'm just thinking, Coach, that sounds like one of those things that when this is the week where, like you were saying, you show them what's happened in the past. Here is where we're going to refine this. We're no longer looking at the right tackle or right guard spot, the star spot as much as we were. Let's work on scenarios. And here is a scenario that we dealt with last year, what worked for us and what didn't, just like you were saying earlier. And I think that Kirby doesn't really get animated in press conferences, but he was kind of, I don't say geeked up a little bit at talking about the middle eight.
Well, from that standpoint, middle eight's the last four of the first half, the first four of the second half. And, everybody at this point it likes to defer so you get the ball the first possession of the second half. But if you can use your timeouts, maybe get an extra possession at the end of the first half if you got them backed up. But just for instance, the Notre Dame game, one of the things he'll be talking to our team about is, look, if you're backed up, you really want to be very aware of protecting the ball and particularly quarterback, and understand that not only what can happen, but show them what happened. And that was big for the game. And then talk about on the kickoff team, which we've been tremendous on kickoff and punt return. What happens when you get caught out of your lane and been used to the kicker kicking it out of the end zone all the time? You better stay in your lane and do what you're supposed to. One or two guys relax, and the game was essentially being put close to ice after that kickoff return. But I think from a standpoint of middle eight, there's all kind of scenarios in the game. Everybody talks about we need to get off to a better start. Well, sometimes you don't start well and you win. Sometimes you start well and you lose. So, but I will say this, and this is 80-year-old coach talking about, most games are lost. They're not won. I mean, you lose games more than you win them. And what happens at turnovers, missed assignments, penalties, lost yardage plays, they all add up. And if you're having a lot of those and you're not a disciplined team, you're going to lose. I mean, you're not going to be a team that wins most of your games. You're going to lose because all those things add up. I was talking to a young man the other day about he's on a special team at a high school. I said, do you realize how important it is as a cover guy? If your guy can kick the ball 40 yards and you go down there and do a good job and get the guy and hold him to no return or 2 or 3 yards, that's almost 4 first downs. And realistically, that's what it is as compared to the guy running it back 20. But I know people don't want to get into a lot of philosophy here, but let's get more into these questions. But I just think all teams at this point are equal, and the way you put your team together is based on anything else. What gives us the best chance to have an opportunity to be competitive? If that means using more of our good players on special teams, if that means changing a little bit on this or that. But every year you better react and do things accordingly, not only because of your team, but the teams you're playing. And I think a tremendous example of that last year was Ole Miss. And I know Lane Kiffin gets a lot of stuff back and forth, but they put an inordinate amount of time on working on Georgia after the butt whipping we gave them 2 years ago, on personnel, on playing our schemes, on protecting their quarterback and understanding it. Doesn't make any difference what our plays are. Our players better be better at executing and doing things. and they did a great job against us. I mean, that was good coaching by Lane and his staff.
When I think of the middle eight, I always think of the Rose Bowl against Oklahoma, Roddy, because that Rodrigo Blankenship field goal that at the time didn't feel like it was a whole lot of momentum. It seemed like that helped Georgia believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that I mean, from a numbers standpoint, it obviously helped Georgia to get to where it got to. But Coach, the middle eight to me always seems about belief that everything is still within reach at that point.
Got time, and I never forget. I was talking to Cheney, the offensive coordinator, and for fans that don't remember, OU situation, it was kind of funky there, but anyhow, I said, "You already coming down to the front from the press box. What did they do?" He said, "We know the play we want to run when we want to try to set up a field goal. All our players would have known it, whether I called it or not." And that might have been one of Kirby's offensive plays he called. So
really,
we threw the ball in the flat there and got it up there, and then Rodrigo made it. But to this day, Baker Mayfield talks about the end of that first half, about Oklahoma was on a complete roll, man. Unbelievable roll. And
he's walking off the field, shaking his arms like he's, the man. And all of a sudden, Rodrigo's knocking down a 50-something yarder. And as Dayne, as you said, all of a sudden it was about belief. It's like, wait a minute.
Well, and it was
mathing.
And then it was inexplicably, I don't know what OU was trying to do on offense in the third quarter, but I was glad they were taking a vacation on it. But and then we just ran the ball like we were on fire. But that was a tremendous job of adjusting by us, and really poor job by Oklahoma second half of getting away from their what we call stick to your knitting, so to speak. They got away from it.
Well, Coach, you talk about special teams. The Blankenship kick, that's a super impressive kick in that moment from that guy, walk on. But what set that up? Tay Crowder set that up, who had barely played at Georgia at that point.
Yeah, that unbelievable play by Tay. And, was the guy offside in the championship game?
Up for debate, I believe.
Oh, come on, Coach. It's late at night. I'm trying to keep my dinner down. You're killing me here. But to your point, that's the exact opposite happened in that Notre Dame game when Kirby Smart actually came and said that was the worst they've ever had in that middle eight, because you thought, okay, well, this is Gunnar Stockton's first start. It's, he had a bad play there. Then all of a sudden they've scored, and he says, look, we were down without even touching the ball.
Right.
You're right. So I think that's what they work on this week, right?
That's a good example of losing the game. We lost it.
Yeah.
Look at 3 plays. The guy coming off the edge and the kid that transferred to Mississippi State missing the block, and we fumble going in. Then the sack on Gunner for a strip sack. And then those 3 plays, and in a tight fit game. And you talk to a Notre Dame coach, if they're getting ready for the game and getting their game plan, said, look, this is a really good team, and we're going to have to get some help from them. They got some help.
Yeah.
That was the way it hurt.
Very, very true there. We also asked Kirby about, kind of a fundamental question, because when we spoke to Glenn Schumann, he said that one of the biggest problems they had on defense last year was tackling. And he said, look, you can talk scheme all you want, players all you want, the guys that were drafted. We did not tackle like we normally do. And our guy, Brent Rawls pointed that out, that was Georgia's worst tackling year in Kirby Smart's put together. And as you and I watched the games together, Coach, Dayne behind us, we kept talking about the missed tackles. And we asked Kirby, or somebody in the media did today, how are you looking from a tackling perspective? And he said, it's tough because you don't want to tackle to the ground. That's where all the injuries happen. But at the same time, if you don't tackle to the ground, you're going to miss tackles. But he said, we're not as good as we want to be. And I'm just curious, is that coach speak, or does he – because I don't think Kirby would ever be satisfied from a tackling standpoint. But at the same time, they came out of that scrimmage pretty unscathed.
Yeah,
Coach, how do you work
it's a real paradox. To be you just can't tackle unless you tackle. But there's a lot of ways to practice it without hitting the ground, and they got those mats that they fall on and all that. But it's still, you got to have the want to, and you got to have the technique, and you got to have the angles, and you got to know where the guy's coming from, and it's all coaching. But it is a game of blocking and tackling and open field. For instance, KJ Bolden makes that play on third down in the open field to make sure that Texas had to kick a field goal. And then Lucky makes the tackle in the open field on that guy on the interception. Either one of those plays, you miss it, and we're in trouble. So, and you can talk about that all day, but open field tackling and open field running is something that we got to get better at, because we didn't make a lot of people miss us last year. We had the least explosive plays that I can remember since Kirby, since maybe the first year. I mean, I love me some 30-yard gains and some 50-yard touchdown passes and 20-yard deal where a guy misses a tackle. And so we didn't – if you look at our MO last year, it wasn't that. But we also, on a counterbalance, we missed a lot of those too. Go back to the Clemson game. A lot of explosive plays, not many missed tackles, a lot of lost yardage plays. We're playing the head of the sticks the whole game. And we look like a Georgia team as much as any game we played. And hopefully that's what we're going to do this year.
Yeah, I was just looking real quick. Georgia was last in the conference in rushing plays of over 20 yards. So that is and we asked Mike Bowe about it, and he said, we need to be more efficient in our runs. I think you're right, Coach, about looking for those explosive plays. And there were a number of times where you saw a Georgia guy lined up to make a tackle, and all of a sudden, there's a Kentucky guy or a Auburn guy or a Georgia Tech guy getting past him. And it's like, this just doesn't feel right. Now, this season, we're hearing all the right things. I'm very optimistic. I know it's a rough schedule, but that preseason optimism, Coach, is sneaking in on me. I'm getting a little excited. You know me, I'm the most dour guy when they're about to kick off.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, well, why don't you tackle better? But, I mean, at the same time, these guys are on scholarship, and they're going to try to make you miss too. So I'm okay with a missed tackle when a guy just takes a bad step or angle, and, But when you got a chance to wrap a guy up and put him back, I mean, there's a lot of difference between a 3-yard loss and a 2-yard gain. You know what I mean? So you got to get him on the ground in the backfield. And the other thing that we've always been real good is with our speed and quickness is swarming the ball. And I like to see all those hats around the ball and put them on the ground.
Coach, I know you were a quarterback and a punter, but did you ever, maybe a punt return or interception or something, did you ever have to lay the wood on somebody?
Of all the things you could ask me to embarrass me, one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me, and because it was chronicled back in the old days, and they had these time-lapse photography that they'd put in the Raleigh paper or the Charlotte paper, and they'd show you kicking and then the guy catching it, then the guy running, and then, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, when they opened up the new stadium in Raleigh, I kicked the ball 68 yards, one of the largest punt I've ever made. And then this Bryant kid from South Carolina returned it. He picked it up on the 2, which you shouldn't do, inside the 10, turned it around. Our whole team missed him. It's me and him in the open field, and he just pulled my pants down. I mean, it was embarrassing. So a couple of my buddies that were defensive backs, they busted me all. We won the game, so you can laugh about it. But they said, hey, come over here a couple times, during the next couple of weeks, and we'll do a couple of drills. And, I wasn't a real physical guy, but I made sure the next time I was between him and the goal line, I was at least going to bite him or kick him or get him down, because that was terrible that I missed that tackle. But
oh man, I didn't mean to bring up bad memories.
But interceptions, I don't think I ever had a pick go all the way or had to tackle a guy. But that one punt will live in my mind forever. But that was terrible.
How'd you like your boy Stetson Bennett, who threw a interception to a zero technique, who got blocked like hell. But then, hey, you also threw the game winner, Coach.
I tell you, Stetson's on fire. I promise you. That anybody that thinks that guy can't play, I mean, you pass for 300 yards in an NFL game. I don't care where they're playing it, and you're playing, very impressive. I got to think with Jimmy Garoppolo making so much money that they got to look hard whether they keep Garoppolo or Stetson, because he's a winner, man. I mean, he can do it, and perfect offense the way they run all that stuff. And wouldn't that be awesome to have two Georgia quarterbacks in one team?
I love it. We're going to talk a little bit about the playoffs and some other stuff real quick, but I do need to mention right off the bat our friends at Athens Ford. Huge supporters of UGA Sports. They're a big reason that we're able to stay on the air. They're a big reason we're able to bring you the Georgia Watch Along show. We will have that for the Marshall game. Coach will be joining us. We'll do it from his house. We'll be doing live commentary during the Marshall game. You can watch Marshall on your big screen TV and then have us on a side screen, thanks to the good folks at Athens Ford. Right now, they've got the 2025 Ford F-150s for $15,000 off MSRP. That's the 2025s. They've got the 2025 Ford F-150s, the XLT and the STX for $12,000 off. So you get the 302A crew cab for $15,000 off. If you want the XLT, $12,000 off. Fantastic deals on the best-selling Ford truck, or best-selling truck, in America. Not just the best-selling Ford truck, the best-selling truck, the Ford F-150. I've driven them. I love them. You can't get a better truck in the world than the Ford F-150. I was in Egypt, as Dayne was teasing me, and the folks over there, if they see one going down the road, which there's not that many of them, they ooh and ah, and just their eyes bug out when they see one, because they're rare over there and everybody knows it's such a good truck. So check them out when you get a chance. I also want to mention our friend Andy Ludecki at myperfectfranchise.net. This is, if you're new to the show, if you haven't been watching in the past, I want you to understand that when I mentioned myperfectfranchise.net, I'm talking about a company who helps you get into the right franchise. Andy represents over 3,000 different franchises. So if you go to him and say, look, I've got 48 cents and a stale cup of coffee, he's going to be able to find you a franchise. Or you can say, look, I have $300,000 and all the time in the world, he's going to find you a franchise. So somewhere in between there is where most of us fall. And if you talk to Andy Ludecki, he can get you into the right place. You can say, hey, I love the idea of owning a roofing company, but I'm scared of heights. Well, he can handle that. He can say, look, I like the idea of having a restaurant. He can handle that. I like the idea of having insurance. Whatever you want to do, Andy can get you into the right place, and it doesn't cost you a dime. So reach out to Andy Ludecki at myperfectfranchise.net. Doesn't cost you anything, and you'll be glad you did so.
I have two kind of stories around college football that I want to run by Coach. The first, Kirby Smart was asked about today. There were some reports that the Big Ten is already pondering playoff expansion, increasing more automatic qualifiers. And Kirby Smart was asked about it and the conference championship games, which Georgia won last season, and then what it would mean for UGA. So we'll hear from Kirby, and then, Coach, I just want your reaction to the reports after that.
Yeah, I'm probably like most people in the majority of, I would love to be able to expand the playoffs if it's done the right way in terms of giving more teams opportunity. I think that's what fan bases want. People are not excited about a mid-tier bowl game at some of these programs they're at. I think those bowl games are great experiences. I played in them. I've coached in them. I love them as an opportunity. But the more teams you give an opportunity to decide things on the field, like you do, whether it's college basketball, high school football, old 1AA football, back when they had the playoff, I mean, you're going to get things decided on the grass. So, yeah, I'd be for that. And you say, well, what about the championship games? I love the championship games. Can you have your cake and eat it too? Can you move the season up, start it, get it done? If you can't and you can only have one of those two, I don't know which one I would pick, because it would probably depend on the format.
I'm with him. I'm 100% with him. And I know people are like, well, the number 12, number 16 teams don't matter. I'm like, but they're still involved. How many times when Georgia got dropped from 2 to 6, I was furious about it, and I complained about the, having to play FSU. I'm like, you're out of it. You're completely out of it. This is ridiculous.
From my standpoint, we just need to know what the parameters are, and whoever's going to figure it out, then we're going to react to it. But I would think the way parity is going to be more prevalent from now on with NIL and transfer, you're not going to have teams dominating college football like you did.
Yeah,
there's going to be too much roster change. So let's get 12 or 16 in there, and then let's play ball.
I'm with you 100%, especially, and Dayne, I don't mean to cut you off, but just the idea of, remember when Georgia played Clemson to open the season in 2021? I actually predicted Clemson to win that game, but I said by the end of this year, Georgia's going to be a juggernaut. They're going to be lights out, but they've got a lot of guys that need to get experienced. This, too, is a very young team. Midway through the season, and of course, they got Tennessee and Alabama in there. It's going to be tough. But I expect today the coaches voted on the all SEC teams. The best Georgia could do on the offense was second team all SEC, Oscar Delp, Nate Frazier, Ernest Green. I expect there to be at least one or two first team offensive all SEC guys as voted by the coaches by the end of the season, because I think this offense is going to come together, Coach. I think as the season progresses, this team is going to get better, barring injury. And I like the idea of the more chances they get, an early slip up at Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss doesn't ruin your season like it would have in the past.
Right, but we also got 14 guys on the team. You got 4 first-team defensive guys. So we got a lot of players that are going to get recognized. But here's the thing, and I just keep telling everybody to be thankful where we are. We're in a position now, kind of like when I was at Oklahoma, where, everybody expects you to win every game.
Yeah.
And the critiques out there, and that goes with the territory. If you're a coach, you're going to have that, but there's a real high standard here. It's an unbelievable standard of not only winning, but winning at a level like where you not only win, but you crush them. And you know what I'm saying? So it's fortunate for me. Most of my career, I was at places where we won at a pretty high level, but I'll say this, it's the end of the show here. You measure success in degrees. Success for us is winning every game or close to it, being in the playoffs. Success for some other teams, 5 or 6 games, man, that's great. So you just got to look at it like that. But the people that are Georgia fans that listen to this is like the golden years right here. I'm just talking about, I'm hoping we can sustain it as long as we can, but these last 5 years have been unbelievable.
Other question that I know you love talking about what's happening at Auburn sometimes because it's been a mess for a little while. Hugh Freeze kind of tossed it out there that they may play all 3 quarterbacks in their first game against Baylor, which was not the crazy thing to me, Coach. Last week, we learned that Auburn, apparently, offensive play calling, you'll have one coach calling first down plays and another coach calling third down plays. And I'd never heard of anything like that in my life. And Hugh Freeze can overrule both of them.
And if they win, Hugh Freeze called the plays. If they lost, the other guys did. Well, I like it, the fact that he's going to play 3 quarterbacks. That means he's going to let Juan Daniel's son play, who everybody in Georgia knows. Juan played for me, and his son played at Stanford last couple of years. Had an unbelievable career out there, and he transferred to Auburn with the idea that he was going to have a chance to compete for the starting job. But they've got that kid that transferred from OU, Jackson Arnold, who is, a good quarterback. But, hey, they could play 3. Who knows? But he's just throwing that out to Baylor so they have to work on everything. Tough. That's a tough-ass opening game. Go out to Baylor. Play that Dave Aranda, the head coach, who's a tremendous defensive coach who was at LSU when they won the national championship. But, Auburn is – to me, Auburn's kind of on Tulsa time. They're living on Tulsa time. They could be maybe not. They've gotten some players in there, but they gotta find a way to avoid losing as much as win. They had OU beat last year. and they called it stupid play and threw a pick for 6. But you know how much time I'm going to waste on Auburn, about how long it takes for me to drop some water through my hand and it hits the bottom of the ground. So I could give a rat's ass what happens to Auburn.
I'll wrap with a couple questions in the dogma, and we'll get out of here. From Billy Zane. Coach, with respect to your other former team, it seems like Georgia has a couple of weeks to get its act together before SEC play with a lighter schedule to open. Does that change how the end of fall camp would go when you know it's not some big marquee first game?
Well, you know, it's kind of a situation where you know you're going against Clemson. You got to kind of monitor your, you know, how much you go against good because you need to go a little bit more because you know you're going to get that kind of resistance when you play the other team. But maybe you can spend a little more time with the second, third, and fourth units. But you don't want to take this Marshall game for granted. I'm just going to say it has nothing to do with my affiliation with them. It would be if I didn't know anybody up there. But they got a completely new coaching staff, a completely new roster. So we got no benefit of the scouting here. So they could come out and something completely different than what we planned they might be doing based on their coordinators. And you can look bad there sometime. I mean, even the great teams can get outfoxed just because of something funky happening. But you're not going to win games on trick plays and stuff like that. But you might make your team look bad. So I worry about that. And then we always talk about on the Watch Along show, when you play a team that you vastly outman, what you got to do the week of practice is practice hard and be ready and sell your players on the fact these second, third team guys deserve a chance. So make sure we prepare right. But I like the way the schedule sets up to build some depth because we got some question marks. Got to find a safety come in there. We need a couple linemen, these receivers coming around. Hopefully the backup quarterback can get some more reps too. But it's a good schedule from that standpoint.
From PA Dog 610, a lot of people talk about potential weaknesses of the team. Coach Donnan, what's Georgia's greatest strength for this 2025 team?
I just think the collective grouping of players that, number one, we got some good kids. You can't win with bums. You can't win with turds. We got some really good kids on this program, in this program. We got a cohesive coaching staff that's been enhanced by some great additions to give us some more analysts and people working with the second and third groups. And they have a sense of pride about wearing the G and about, even though they won the championship last year and it was awesome, you know, they're used to being in the playoffs and going further, and they really have really worked hard, and we're pretty fresh. And you know, we're not reading a lot of stuff about people losing a guy or doing that. So it's nothing like, to me, and I always, it comes to a point where it just can't be you going to work and you don't feel good about it and all that. To me, from our standpoint, I really think these guys, even though practice is hard enough, I just believe they can't wait to get out there and strut their stuff. I just feel like this group has just got that kind of it factor that they're going to show everybody. Georgia's not only back, but they're going to be big time.
I agree. When you look at go watch the interview today, folks, with Justin Williams. This is a guy you should be excited about. Watch Chris Cole. You know, watch Nate Frazier. The great story that Jed did on Nate Frazier. You know, watch Gunnar Stockton. These are kids that are easy to root for. I know it's tough to have loyalty during the NIL era, you know, and the transfer portal era, but you're going to like these kids. They're going to be easy to root for. You're going to be changing out some of those jerseys. I did get an email question, Coach, and I'll get this one to you. We can finish with this one from Jacob Hawk. He says, when coaching from the booth, what did you look for, or what did your coaches look for when they relay information to the field? I'm in my first year coaching high school football, and I've been stationed in the coaches booth. I'm interested to know what information you found valuable from your assistant coaches in the booth, and what valuable information you relayed to the field when you were the coach in the booth.
You got to coach the coaches right there, Jacob. You got to, each guy has an assignment. I mean, if you got 3 guys in the box on offense or 3 on the defense, they all can't be watching you got to have somebody watching something specifically. And we have a guy watching on the sideline, the guy that's closest to you. One of your line coaches is watching the side closest to the bench, and then the other guys watching other people on the field. And then up in the box, you got somebody watching the interior to see what happens. You know, when the ball is snapped, he's going to chart what the 5 people did inside. And then you got a guy watching the secondary to see what they did. The thing that helped me in coaching that I learned early on is have your players do a job. They just can't be down there cheering and waving towels and all that bullshit. If you're a wide receiver, your job is to watch if let's say Roddy's a Z and Dayne's a X, you're in charge of the Z, watching what the defensive back played on that play and what kind of technique he had. So how was he on press coverage? Did he use his hands right? What did he do? And then talk to the receiver when they come out. Players can help coach like that. Here's the point, and then we'll get back to the box. There's going to come a time in a game where that flanker's got to beat that wide receiver on a fade route or a slant, and he's got to know what's the best technique to use. And you're going to know that by the way he's played you throughout the game and some ideas about what your fellow players can help you with. But as far as in the box, I'm talking a lot here to Jake. The number one thing that I feel like is the guy that's calling the plays needs to have an empty line there where nobody's talking but him, and so he can really converse to the whoever's signaling the play in and have a good feel of thought about what the play call is, but be able to see the whole field. So what I always want to know right away after the play's over, you got a guy in charge of down and distance. So he's telling me right away, if did we gain 5 yards or 6 yards or 8 yards? I don't want to be looking at that. He's going to say 2nd 4. You know, that's what he's going to say. So I know it. And I've already thought about what I'm going to call because I think the play is going to work anyhow. But if it didn't, so you want to know the down and distance, number one. You also want to know their personnel. So if they're substituting, you got another guy that's running their guys on the field because they might be putting nickel in or extra lineman or all that. And you say, so you get down and distance and personnel. 2 different people give you that, and then you make the play call. But the biggest thing at the end is you don't want to talk about these guys. Boy, he made some great halftime adjustments. If you're making adjustment at halftime, you're going to get your ass beat. You make your adjustments after the series is over. The first thing you do when a guy comes off the field is I'm the play caller. I'm going to talk to the quarterback because I talked to him all week. I'm going to talk about, look, we got to watch out on their buzz coverage. They're taking a guy over the top. We thought he might go more inside. We can't buzz him like that. So, and get that right to him right away so it's in his mind because I've taught him all week they're going to do something and they changed it. And then always ask them this too. And another thing you can do in a timeout, Jake, is when your quarterback comes to the sideline, ask him what he thinks. I mean, he's out there. I mean, are these guys like that? I could do a clinic on this. I love the press box. I love play calling, but also like the organizational part because it keeps all your coaches in the game. And then when you get over on the sideline, you get your team and you talk to them about this is what happens. And this last series, they ran this guy here. And then you ask your players about, particularly on your O-line, D-line, can you block this guy? What do we need to do to help you? Do we need a double team? Do we need to block down? On special teams, can you get through that guy and block the punt? We practice it all week, but all of a sudden, coach, that guy's a stud. I can't get around him. So that's out the gate right away. So a lot of communication on the sideline.
Beautiful. Was that all the questions, Dayne? Beautiful. All right,
that's
Coach,
it. That's all we have time for.
Good. We're going to let you go. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We got good answers from Coach when we pester him about his questions. We appreciate him taking the time to meet with us and give us all this great insight into the program. I think next Tuesday we'll be back on our normal schedule because it'll be game week.
Yeah.
Think about that. The next time we get together, folks, it'll be game week, and we'll be talking about Georgia versus Marshall. And hopefully we'll be back at noon next Tuesday. So be sure to tune in then. And if you have questions, especially about the team, playoffs, whatever you want, get them into the comment section early next week. And we'll get Coach to answer those.
A little bit too much philosophy tonight from an old coach, but I feel like
too much, Coach.
Yeah, I just feel like that. Just watching Kirby today, that the way he was talking to you guys and looking at him, he looks like he got a real mean on for ready to go. I mean, he's relaxed, but
he
wants to do it. So, and
Coach, I'd rather have your philosophy than your arithmetic. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's true. I'm not real good, but I do feel like, from my standpoint, and everybody else, I feel a little stronger. So I'm on my way back a little bit. So maybe by middle of the season I can talk to you without these glasses on. But
don't worry about it. But, I think you look cool, Coach. I like it.
I would say this to everybody tonight: don't take your health for granted. I mean, it's something you thank the Lord you got it.
Amen on that. All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Y'all take care.